The nurse, checking my blood pressure, leaned close and whispered, "When the doctor comes in, say you're someone else?" I started to ask why, but she cut me off. "We don't have time." At that moment, Dr. Shaw entered, holding something that chilled me to the bone. What happened next forced me to flee the hospital. Make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching this story unfold. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next. The blood pressure cuff tightened around my arm, but nothing about that Friday morning at Napa Valley Medical Center felt routine. October in wine country should have found me knee-deep in harvest preparations at Nash Ridge Vineyard, not sitting on this examination table for what Knox insisted was a necessary checkup. "Mr. Maxton Nash?" Faith Cross asked, her voice strained. Her name tag read F*RN, but her hands trembled as she worked. I'd never seen her before in my 15 years coming here. "That's me," I replied, though I told my son I feel perfectly fine. These old bones have been through 67 harvests. Faith's auburn hair was pulled back tightly, making her look older than her 30-something years. She pumped the bulb, but her eyes weren't on the gauge. They were darting toward the door like she expected trouble. "How are you feeling today?" The question came out forced. "Fine as frog's hair," I said, trying to ease her nervousness. "Just here because my boy Knox gets worried." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "Mr. Nash, I need you to listen very carefully." Her breath smelled like mint as she whispered in my ear, "When the doctor comes in, say you're someone else." My heart stuttered. "I beg your pardon." "We don't have time to explain," she hissed, gripping my wrist tight. The door swung open with such force it banged against the wall. Dr. Shaw entered, carrying a clipboard thick with official documents, and I could see more people in the hallway behind him. "Good morning," Dr. Shaw said, but his usual warm demeanor seemed strained. "I have some forms here that need—" "Maxton." The voice came from the doorway, and two people stepped into the room, making my blood run cold. Knox, my only son, looked haggard in his rumpled shirt, hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it all morning. But it was Quinn who made every instinct scream warnings. Quinn Gray Nash, my daughter-in-law of 3 years, stood perfectly composed in a navy dress that cost more than most people's mortgage. Her blonde hair was swept into an elegant chignon, her smile practiced and false. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Quinn rushed forward with outstretched arms. Faith's fingers pressed harder into my wrist, and I saw the desperate plea in her eyes. Some survival instinct made me say, "I'm sorry, but there's been some confusion. My name is Robert Mitchell." Dr. Shaw looked down at his clipboard, then back at me, clearly bewildered. "But I have here—" "I'm afraid there's been a mistake," I said steadily. "I'm here for arthritis consultation. Robert Mitchell scheduled for 9:30. Quinn's face flickered, something dark flashing behind her concern before the mask returned. "Maxton, honey, you're confused. Don't you remember? We discussed this appointment last week." "Ma'am, I've never met you before," I replied, meeting her eyes. "And I don't appreciate being called by the wrong name." Faith stepped forward. "Dr. Shaw, I believe there's been a scheduling error. Mr. Mitchell was indeed scheduled for this slot. Perhaps we should check the system." Knox looked bewildered, but Quinn's voice rose theatrically. "That's ridiculous. That's my father-in-law, Maxton Nash. He owns Nash Ridge Vineyard on Silverado Trail. He's clearly having a cognitive episode, which is exactly why we brought him here." The pieces clicked together like tumblers in a lock. The psychiatric evaluation forms in Dr. Shaw's hands. Quinn's too perfect concern. Knox's haggard appearance. This wasn't a medical checkup. This was an ambush. I had to choose trust a stranger or my own family. I chose survival. The hospital corridor stretched ahead of me like a gauntlet. Faith had whispered directions to the service exit while checking my pulse, her voice barely audible over my thundering heartbeat. I slipped off the examination table as quietly as 67-year-old joints would allow. Through the door, I could hear Quinn's voice rising. He's clearly experiencing a cognitive episode. Knox's deeper tones rumbled in response. The sound of my son discussing my supposed mental decline felt like a knife in my chest. The service corridor was mercifully empty, smelling of disinfectant and floor wax. My shoes squeaked against linoleum as I headed toward what I hoped was freedom. Behind me, Quinn's voice spiked. "Where is he?" "He was just here." The service exit opened onto employee parking. October sunshine hit my face like a blessing as I drew my first full breath since Faith's warning. My hands shook, fumbling for truck keys, muscle memory guiding me toward my old Ford pickup. The engine rumbled to life, and I was pulling out when my phone buzzed. Faith's number. "Mr. Nash, are you safe?" For now, I managed checking my rearview mirror. "Faith, what the hell is going on?" "I can't explain over the phone, but you need legal help immediately." She rattled off a name and address. "Cruz Stone. He's an attorney specializing in elder law. Tell him I sent you, and it's urgent." 20 minutes later, I sat across from Cruz Stone in his downtown Napa office, watching him examine documents I'd grabbed from Dr. Shaw's clipboard. Cruz was younger than expected, maybe 45, with intelligent dark eyes and steady demeanor. "Mr. Nash," he said, frowning at the papers, "these psychiatric evaluation forms have red flags. The signatures don't match medical board samples, and the letterhead formatting is off." My stomach dropped. "So they're fake?" "I'd bet my law degree on it." He pulled out another document. "And this power of attorney, your signature doesn't match your driver's license. Someone's been practicing your handwriting." Cruz opened a thick folder, spreading papers across his desk. "There's more. I ran a search on your property records. Someone filed loan documents against Nash Ridge Vineyard 3 weeks ago. $2.3 million at 22% interest." The room tilted. "That's impossible. I never signed anything." "No, but someone did. Someone who studied your signature carefully." Cruz's expression was grim. "Mr. Nash, this isn't just family concern about your health. This is sophisticated financial fraud designed to strip you of everything you own." "But why would Knox?" I started, then stopped. My son's haggard appearance, his genuine distress, the confusion when I denied my identity. "You don't think Knox knows, do you?" "In my experience, the family member is either the mastermind or another victim. Given what I saw today, I'd say your son believes he's helping a sick father." Cruz leaned back. "The question is, who's pulling the strings?" Before I could answer, my phone erupted in a shrill ring. Knox's name flashed on the screen, and even Cruz could hear the anger and desperation when I reluctantly answered. "Dad, where the hell are you?" The anger in Knox's voice hit me like a physical blow. Cruz gestured for me to put the call on speaker, his pen poised over a legal pad. "Knox, son, I need you to listen." "No, Dad, you listen to me." My 42-year-old son's voice cracked. "Do you have any idea what you've put us through? Quinn is beside herself. Dr. Shaw said you ran off during a medical evaluation. What were you thinking?" I glanced at Cruz, who nodded encouragingly. "Knox, that wasn't a medical evaluation. Those were psychiatric commitment papers. Because you need help." The words exploded from the phone. "Dad, you've been forgetting things. Last month, you couldn't remember the harvest schedule you've followed for 40 years. You got lost driving to the store you've shopped at since I was a kid." My heart sank. "Knox, I was never lost. I took a different route to avoid construction. And what about the incident with the workers Quinn showed me the video, Dad? You were screaming at the harvest crew, accusing them of stealing grapes. They were doing exactly what you'd told them the day before." I felt the blood drain from my face. There had been no incident, no video, no forgotten schedules. "Son, I don't know what Quinn showed you, but—" "Stop lying to me." Knox's voice broke. "I've seen the medical reports. Dr. Morrison documented 3 episodes of confusion and aggression. Quinn has been protecting you, covering for you, trying to help you maintain dignity while your mind—" Cruz was writing furiously, his expression darkening. "Knox," I said gently, "Dr. Morrison hasn't been my doctor in 5 years. He moved to Portland, and I've never had any episodes. Someone has been lying to you. This is exactly what the doctors said would happen. Paranoia, delusion, blaming everyone else." Knox's breathing was ragged. "Do you know what it's like watching your father disappear? The man who taught me everything about wine, about business, about being a man, is becoming someone I don't recognize." Knox, think logically. If I was really losing my mind, would I have escaped a hospital, driven across town, and hired a lawyer? Would I be having a coherent conversation right now? Quinn said you'd have moments of clarity. She said that's what makes it so heartbreaking. Cruz looked up and mouthed, "She's good. Son, I'm asking you to trust me one more time. The woman you married is not who you think she is. She's manipulating you, manipulating this entire situation for reasons that have nothing to do with my health." The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. When Knox finally spoke, his voice was flat, emotionless. "I can't do this anymore, Dad. I can't watch you destroy yourself with conspiracy theories. Quinn was right. You're too sick to see what's happening to you. Knox, please. I'm filing for emergency guardianship, for your own protection. I'm sorry, Dad, but you've left me no choice. The line went dead. I stared at the silent phone, feeling like I'd just watched my son die. Cruz reached across the desk and gently took it from my trembling fingers. Mr. Nash, he said quietly, your son is lost to you, but I'm about to discover just how deep this conspiracy runs. Monday morning light filtered through Cruz's office windows as he spread a thick folder across his desk. I'd spent a sleepless weekend at a downtown hotel, wondering if Knox had filed those guardianship papers. My investigator worked through the weekend, Cruz said grimly. What we found about your daughter-in-law will shock you. He pulled out a driver's license photo that looked like Quinn, but with darker hair. Meet Sarah Michelle Gray, arrested in Phoenix 3 years ago for elder fraud. Charges dropped when her victim died before trial. My stomach clenched. That's Quinn? A same woman, different name. Cruz laid out more photos. Here she is as Michelle Summers, in Denver, Patricia Gray, in Portland. Always targeting wealthy widowers over 65. Same pattern every time. The photos showed Quinn with various hair colors, but those calculating eyes remained the same. In one, she was arm in arm with a silver-haired man at what looked like a charity gala. How many victims? 7 that we can prove, but I suspect more. Cruz pulled out bank statements. Regular deposits from Sunset Consulting Services. The trail leads to a Delaware shell company specializing in forged documents. Medical records power of attorney forms psychiatric evaluations. One-stop shop for elder abuse fraud. How long have they been operating? Over 20 years. Cruz's voice was careful. The sophistication of these operations, the psychological manipulation she used on Knox. Someone taught her to be this good. He pulled out a computer printout. That church fund theft traced to your home computer. The digital fingerprints show someone who knew exactly how to cover their tracks. Professional level. I thought about Quinn in my study claiming to help with online bill paying while I worked the vineyard. There's more. Cruz continued pulling out police reports. In Denver, she convinced an 80-year-old rancher his son was stealing from him. In Portland, she had a retired judge declared incompetent after 6 months of marriage. In Phoenix, she nearly succeeded in committing her victim to memory care. What happened to them? The rancher lost his property, died alone in a nursing home. The judge's family fought back, but most assets were gone by then. The Phoenix victim died of a heart attack 1 week before testifying against her. The pattern was terrifying. Quinn found wealthy older men infiltrated their lives, then systematically destroyed relationships while stealing assets. She's gotten better at each attempt, Cruz said. Your daughter-in-law isn't just a gold digger, she's a professional predator who's been perfecting this con for years. I stared at the photos of Quinn's victims. But why target me through Knox? Why not marry me directly? Because you're not a lonely widower. You have a son, friends, a business people watch. She needed an inside track, someone to vouch for her credibility and help isolate you from support. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Quinn had spent 3 years studying our family learning weaknesses, positioning herself for this moment. The question is, Cruz said quietly, who's been running this operation for 20 years? Who taught a teenager to become this sophisticated? I looked at the evidence spread across his desk. The photos, the bank records, the trail of destroyed lives. Quinn wasn't just after my money. She was part of something much bigger. Wednesday evening at Nash Ridge Vineyard felt like coming home to a battlefield. The familiar Cabernet Sauvignon vines, heavy with October fruit, should have brought peace, but every shadow seemed to hide a threat. Cruz parked beside my truck, surveying the property. Beautiful place. Worth fighting for. My grandfather planted the first vines in 1952. I replied, 3 generations of Nashmen have worked this soil. I won't let Quinn steal it. Brix Turner emerged from the main house, his weathered face creased with concern. My oldest friend had been maintaining the property while I'd been hiding. Maxton, thank God you're safe, Brix said, gripping my shoulder. That boy's been calling every hour worried sick. Knox thinks I'm losing my mind, I said bitterly. His wife convinced him I'm dangerous. Cruz opened his briefcase on the porch table, pulling out spy movie equipment. We're giving Mrs. Nash exactly what she wants. A confused old man ready to sign over everything. But this time we'll record every word. The recording device was smaller than a pen, nearly invisible, clipped to my shirt pocket. Cruz tested it twice, his phone receiving crystal clear audio from across the room. The Harvest Festival is perfect cover, I said, gesturing toward Brix's decorations. Quinn will think I'm keeping up appearances while my mind deteriorates. Faith arrived as the sun set, her nurse's uniform replaced by jeans and worry. Mr. Nash, are you sure about this? If Quinn is as dangerous as you think, she won't try violence with witnesses around, Cruz assured her. But having medical testimony about your mental state could be crucial. I walked through the house one more time. The dining room where my family had shared countless meals would become the stage for Quinn's downfall. Every room held memories she was trying to steal. It's time, Cruz said, handing me my phone. Remember, you're defeated, confused, ready to do whatever they ask. My hands shook as I dialed Knox's number. He answered immediately. Dad Jesus, where have you been? I've been worried sick. Knox, son, I let my voice waver, injecting uncertainty. I think maybe you're right. Maybe I do need help. The relief in his voice was heartbreaking. Dad, thank God. Where are you? I'm at the vineyard. I came home to make sense of what's happening to me. I paused, letting confusion bleed in. I keep forgetting things. Important things. Maybe it's time I admitted I can't handle this anymore. We'll come tonight, Knox said immediately. No, not tonight. I need time to prepare myself. Tomorrow evening we can have dinner like we used to, and I'll sign whatever papers you think are best. Are you sure, Dad? I sound like an old man ready to face the truth. I said the lie, tasting like ash. Bring Quinn. Bring the papers. Let's get this over with. After hanging up, we sat in silence on the porch, watching the last light fade over the vineyard. She's going to be confident, Cruz warned. Overconfident, maybe? That's when people make mistakes. I nodded, feeling 3 generations pressing on my shoulders. Tomorrow would determine whether Nash Ridge Vineyard survived, or whether Quinn's web of lies would claim its prize. The trap was set. Tomorrow would bring the harvest of truth. Quinn would walk into my vineyard for the last time. The dining room at Nash Ridge had witnessed 3 generations of family dinners and celebrations. Tonight, it would witness the performance of my life. Knox arrived first, his face etched with worry. Behind him, Quinn glided in wearing a black dress that looked both respectful and predatory, carrying a leather briefcase containing my financial death warrant. Dad, Knox said, his voice breaking as he embraced me. You look tired. I let my shoulders sag, made my handshake weaker. I'm tired, son. Tired of fighting shadows, tired of not remembering things. The recording device in my pocket felt warm against my chest. Oh, Maxton, Quinn cooed, setting her briefcase on the mahogany table where Knox had once done homework. We're here to help. Everything will be easier once you don't have to worry about complicated decisions. Knox pulled out my chair. Dad, this has been so hard. Watching you struggle, seeing you confused and angry. I know, son. I patted his hand, noting how Quinn tracked the gesture like a predator. You're a good boy. Your mother would be proud. Quinn's smile tightened. She didn't like mentions of my late wife. The paperwork is prepared, Quinn said, opening her briefcase efficiently. Power of attorney, property transfer, medical directives. Everything for proper care. She spread documents across the table like cards. Each page represented my life's work being signed away to the woman who'd orchestrated my destruction. Knox, I said, letting confusion creep in. Remind me why we're doing this. My mind plays tricks sometimes. My son's face crumpled. Dad, you've been having episodes, forgetting things, getting angry with workers. Quinn showed me videos, medical reports. Dr. Morrison moved to Portland 5 years ago, I said quietly. Quinn's hand shot out to cover Knox's. Sweetheart, remember what doctors said about challenging his delusions. It makes confusion worse. Right, Knox said, but I caught uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Sorry, Dad. Quinn placed an expensive pen before me. Maxton, just sign here, and initial there. Then all this stress ends. No more worrying about harvest schedules or worker management. Knox and I will handle everything. Everything, I repeated, staring at the pen. The vineyard house, accounts, everything. Quinn confirmed, her voice taking on the hypnotic quality she used on Knox. You'll be happier without these difficult decisions. Won't he, Knox? Knox nodded eagerly. You can focus on getting better, Dad. Maybe find you a nice place with people your age, people who understand. A nice place, a memory care facility where I'd disappear while Quinn liquidated my assets. I picked up the pen, letting my hand tremble. You really think this is best? I know it is, Quinn said, leaning forward. Her mask was slipping, revealing cold calculation. Trust me, Maxton. I've handled situations like this before. I know exactly what needs to be done. The admission hung in the air. Knox didn't notice, but I filed it for the recording. Before I sign, I said slowly, How did you know about my condition? When did you first realize I was getting sick? Quinn's smile was sharp as a blade. Oh, Maxton, I've been watching you decline for months. I documented everything. Every slip, every moment of confusion. Someone had to protect this family's interests. She was confessing to months of surveillance and manipulation, all being recorded. You've been very thorough, I said. I always am. Quinn's confidence was absolute now. This isn't my first time managing a situation like this. I know how to handle confused elderly men who can't accept their limitations. Headlights swept across the dining room windows, illuminating Quinn's triumphant expression. A car door slammed outside, and Quinn's smile widened. Perfect timing, she said. The front door opened without a knock, and a woman stepped into my dining room like she owned the place. For a moment, my heart stopped. Then I realized I was looking at a ghost. Diana Reed stood in my doorway, 20 years older, but unmistakably the woman who had nearly destroyed my family once before. Her auburn hair was now silver, her face more lined, but those calculating green eyes hadn't changed at all. Knox's fork clattered to his plate. The color drained from his face as he stared at the woman who had given birth to him 42 years ago. Mom! His voice came out as barely a whisper. But you... You're dead. Quinn told me you died because Dad abandoned you. Dead. Diana smiled, stepping into the light. She wore an elegant gray coat that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. No, darling, just very, very patient. Quinn rose from her chair, and I saw something pass between the two women. A look of shared understanding that made my blood run cold. Knox, sweetheart. Diana said, her voice dripping with false maternal warmth. You look so much like your father did at your age. Still naive. Still trusting the wrong people. I don't understand. Knox stammered, his eyes filling with tears. Quinn said you died of a broken heart after Dad threw you out. She said Dad refused to help when you were sick, that he let you die alone. Diana laughed a sound like breaking glass. Quinn told you exactly what I instructed her to tell you. Every lie, every manipulation, every tear she shed, talking about your poor dead mother, all part of the plan. Knox turned to stare at his wife, horror dawning in his eyes. You lied about my mother being dead? For 3 years, Quinn said coldly, her mask finally dropping completely. Every time I comforted you about your tragic loss, every time I held you while you cried about never getting to say goodbye, it was all performance. But the grave, Knox whispered. We visited her grave. A lovely bit of theater, Diana said proudly. Amazing what you can accomplish with fake death certificates and a purchased headstone. Your wife is quite the actress. Knox staggered backward, his face a mask of devastation. You let me grieve for you. You let me blame Dad for your death. You let me carry that guilt for 3 years while you were alive. Oh, I left all right, Diana said, her voice turning venomous as she looked at me. Your father made sure of that. Didn't you, Maxton? After I built this vineyard alongside you for 15 years, after I worked 18-hour days during harvest, you threw me out like garbage. You stole $2 million from our business accounts, I said quietly. I gave you a choice. Pay it back and disappear or go to prison. I took what I had earned, Diana snapped. What I deserved. But you couldn't stand sharing credit with anyone, especially not with a woman who was smarter than you. Knox looked between us, his world crumbling. So you spent 20 years planning revenge? Diana's smile was triumphant. 20 years building the perfect weapon. She placed a possessive hand on Quinn's shoulder. I found Quinn when she was 17, living on the streets of Austin. I taught her everything. How to research targets, how to forge documents, how to manipulate family dynamics. Knox, you were so easy, Quinn added with cruel satisfaction. Lonely, desperate to prove yourself to Daddy, carrying guilt about not wanting the vineyard. I knew exactly which buttons to push. Knox's voice broke completely. You made me hate my own father. You made me believe he killed my mother. You turned me against the only family I had left. And it worked perfectly, Diana said, moving closer to the table. Until today. Now, Maxton, you're going to sign those papers, or this will get much more unpleasant. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small silver pistol. Knox stared at the 2 women who had destroyed his life, his face wet with tears. You let me mourn you, he whispered to his mother. You let me hate him for something that never happened. Diana's gun was steady in her hand, pointed directly at my chest. Sign the papers, Maxton, now. I reached slowly into my shirt pocket, and Diana tensed, thinking I was going for a weapon. Instead, I pulled out something much more dangerous to her plans. A small recording device no bigger than a pen. I already have everything I need, I said quietly, holding up the device. Every word you've spoken for the past 30 minutes has been recorded and transmitted to my lawyer's phone. Diana's face went white. Quinn stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth. That's impossible, Diana snarled. You're a confused old man who can barely remember his own name. A funny thing about acting, I replied. Sometimes the audience forgets they're watching a performance. The front door burst open and Cruz Stone strode in, followed by 2 Napa County Sheriff's deputies and a California State Police investigator. Their timing was perfect. We'd rehearsed this moment yesterday. Diana Reed. The lead deputy announced, You're under arrest for fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy, and extortion. Quinn Gray Nash, you're under arrest for the same charges plus identity theft and computer fraud. Diana raised her gun toward the officers, but Deputy Martinez was faster. His taser dropped her to the dining room floor before she could fire a shot. The small silver pistol skittered across the hardwood, coming to rest under the antique cabinet I'd bought decades ago. Quinn didn't resist. She collapsed into her chair, her perfectly composed facade crumbling like a house of cards. I never wanted to hurt anyone, she sobbed. Diana said it would be easy, that no one would get hurt. She said we were just taking what was rightfully ours. How long has she been controlling you? Cruz asked gently as the deputies cuffed Diana. Since I was 17, Quinn whispered. I was homeless, starving. She found me in Austin, gave me food, clothes, a place to stay. She said she was teaching me to be strong, to take control of my life. I didn't know. I didn't understand what she was really training me for until it was too late. Knox knelt beside his wife's chair, his face wet with tears. Quinn, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ask for help? Because she said you'd never believe me. She said your family would destroy me if they knew the truth about what I'd done before. Quinn looked up at Knox with genuine anguish. She had photos, videos, evidence of all the other times. She said if I didn't do this, she'd send me to prison and make sure you knew exactly what kind of person you'd married. Diana spat from the floor where the deputies were restraining her. Pathetic. I gave you everything, taught you everything, and this is how you repay me. You destroyed my life, Quinn shot back. You stole my childhood, my choices, my chance at real happiness. I'm done being your weapon. Faith Cross appeared in the doorway, still in her nurse's scrubs. Mr. Nash, I came as soon as Mr. Stone called. Are you all right? I'm fine, thanks to you, I said. If you hadn't warned me at the hospital, I couldn't stand by and watch, Faith replied. My grandmother went through something similar. I swore I'd never let it happen again. The state investigator explained the charges as they prepared to transport Diana. Federal wire fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy, identity theft, extortion, and attempted assault with a deadly weapon. 20 to 25 years in federal prison. Quinn's charges were slightly less severe, 8 to 12 years, but her cooperation might reduce her sentence. As they led Diana toward the door in handcuffs, she turned back to Knox with venom. You'll regret this, boy. You're giving up millions for a senile old fool who never loved you anyway. Get her out of here, Knox said quietly. When the house finally fell silent, Knox and I stood alone in the dining room. The unsigned documents still lay scattered across the table, worthless now. 1 month later, Nash Ridge Vineyard glowed like burnished gold in the October afternoon sun. The Cabernet Sauvignon grapes hung heavy and perfect, ready for what would be one of our finest harvests in decades. Knox worked beside me in the rows, his hands already showing calluses from honest vineyard labor. Gone were the expensive suits and manicured appearance. In their place was a man learning to find himself again, one vine at a time. Hand me that basket, he said, carefully selecting clusters at perfect ripeness. These look ready. I watched my son work with growing pride. The past month had changed him in ways I'd never expected. The Knox who had believed I was losing my mind was gone, replaced by someone stronger, more grounded. Cruz called this morning, I said. The final sentencing came through. Knox paused. And Diana got 15 years federal. No parole for 10. Quinn got 8 years, but with her cooperation, she might be out in 5. Knox nodded slowly. I keep thinking about Quinn. Just 17 when Diana found her. Homeless, desperate. Evil rarely looks like evil when it first appears, I said. It looks like opportunity, like salvation, like someone who understands your pain. We worked in comfortable silence, the familiar rhythm of harvest, soothing both our souls. This vineyard had seen 3 generations of Nash men pour their hearts into the soil. Now it would see a 4th generation learn to do the same. "Dad," Knox said eventually, "when I signed those guardianship papers when I believed Quinn's lies, I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was being a good son." "You were being a manipulated son," I corrected gently. "There's a difference. How do you forgive someone for being that blind?" I set down my basket and looked at Knox directly. "Son forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing to build something better from the wreckage. Diana chose revenge. She let 20 years of anger poison everything she touched. I'm choosing differently." Knox's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve it. None of us deserve forgiveness. That's what makes it powerful." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "But you do deserve a second chance, and so does this vineyard." Brix Turner appeared at the end of our row. "You boys are working too hard. Harvest crew's got the rest covered?" "Just wanted to finish this section ourselves," Knox said, and I heard something new in his voice. Pride, ownership, belonging. Faith Cross walked up from the main house carrying iced tea. She'd become a regular visitor, checking on us as we navigated the healing process. "How are my favorite vineyard workers?" she asked. "Tired, grateful, and cautiously optimistic," I replied. "The community's been talking about what happened," Faith said. "You've given people hope that it's possible to fight back to protect what matters." As the sun set over Nash Ridge, painting the vineyard in amber and gold, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of purpose. Knox officially signed partnership papers the following week. Nash Ridge Vineyard would continue stronger than before, built on truth instead of manipulation, on earned trust instead of blind faith. "What would you tell someone else going through this?" Knox asked as we watched the harvest crew finish. I thought about Faith's warning, about the choice I'd made to trust a stranger over my own family, about the wisdom that comes only through surviving betrayal. "I'd tell them that age isn't about what you've lost," I said finally. "It's about what you've learned, and sometimes the hardest lessons teach us the most valuable truths." The vineyard stretched before us, beautiful and enduring, a testament to the power of legacy forgiveness, and the particular strength that comes from choosing hope over bitterness. Looking back at my story, I realize how close I came to losing everything that mattered. Don't be like I was, too proud to ask for help, too trusting of the wrong people, too slow to recognize manipulation hiding behind love. The hardest lesson I learned is that evil rarely announces itself. It comes disguised as concern, as family loyalty, as protection. Diana and Quinn didn't burst into my life with obvious malicious intent. They crept in slowly, methodically, using my son's love against both of us. But God has a way of placing guardian angels exactly where we need them. Faith Cross could have stayed silent, minded her own business, avoided the risk. Instead, she chose courage. God works through people like her, ordinary folks who refuse to let evil triumph when they have the power to intervene. I've shared this true story because too many grandpa stories end in tragedy. Too many elderly people lose their life's work to sophisticated predators who exploit family bonds. This true story proves that age doesn't make us helpless. It makes us wise if we're willing to fight smart instead of giving up. Trust your instincts even when everyone else says you're wrong. God gave us intuition for a reason. Verify everything, especially when someone claims to be protecting you. And remember, real family doesn't isolate you from help. They encourage you to seek it. These grandpa stories matter because they teach us that wisdom and courage have no expiration date. With God's grace, we can overcome any deception, any betrayal, any attempt to steal our legacy. What's your biggest takeaway from this true story? Have you ever faced family manipulation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else recognize the warning signs. And please subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that prove it's never too late to fight back and protect what matters most.